Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third live website review. This is the first one I'm going to be testing on Twitch. I've done the previous two over on my YouTube channel. In the previous two, I went over the Epic Game Store and Steam Powered. And in this episode, I'm going to go over GOG and compare it to those two. So I'm open on GOG.com, on desktop, and on my real smartphone, which is an old iPhone. I wanted to test an older, slower device with a smaller screen this time. This is the iPhone 5S, which, as far as I know, has the same screen as the iPhone SE from about 2016, and of the iPod Touch that Apple still sells new today. So this screen size is technically still a modern iPhone screen size that Apple still supports. So websites still need to be nice and responsive on it. So I thought, hey, instead of my iPad, I'm going to be testing this on my smartphone this time. So I'm going to go over the website in terms of responsive design, how it goes down from a desktop to a phone. Then I'm going to cover the website with an accessibility plugin called Wave, which is going to analyze the website and show certain points where there might be areas to improve. It'll show if any HTML elements are invalid. And after that, I'm going to go over this website with a screen reader, an NVDA screen reader to be precise. That's the most popular free screen reader. And we'll see what to expect, because both Steam and the Epic Game Store had a number of very significant issues. Some Steam was barely usable at all, which was actually kind of a surprise to me. But before I get too deep into it, I wanted to circle back on something that I found very interesting at the end of the last stream on Steam's website. So I noticed in game descriptions, in every game description, if things will ever stop loading onto the page to let me use it. Anyway, I noticed in every... Hold on, I gotta open... Okay, it was just working a little bit slow. You would think that these would be paragraph tags, but actually what descriptions on Steam do is they just have one div, and they put all of the text inside of it separated by two BR tags. And that makes it look a little bit like paragraphs, even though in terms of code they're not. And I noticed this while going through this with a screen reader, and in between paragraphs it would literally read blank, because that's how screen readers will read the BR tag. After that, I noticed other websites do this too. GOG does this. I'm going to look up, I think Terraria is the game I noticed this in. Right, so they have a master div. The text goes right inside the div, separated by two BR tags in between each paragraph, if you really want to call them that. Technically, this is valid. You can put text right inside of a div. But then I looked up a game on Stadia, and they do it too. Literally a website made by Google themselves. going to find, I don't know, sometimes they do like special pages that are fancier than the standard pages. I think this was the game I was looking at, where I saw that they do this too. Does the website hijack F12 to not open the dev console? Well, my Mac is being laggy. I'm going to show this more on Windows later. But basically every website does this. The only one that doesn't is the Epic Game Store. And instead of using p tags, which they still don't use on this website, they basically create fake p tags with divs, which I found weird. But of the major game companies that have storefronts, this is actually the best approach, because screen readers aren't going to read blank in between each paragraph. So this is actually the most accessible approach, even though they still don't use p tags. Whereas Steam, GOG, Google Stadia, and Nintendo, actually, I saw they do it too. They all use this strange approach where they just put it in a div with BR tags separating it. And I was very curious as to why they would choose to do this, so I asked online. And the overall consensus I got from Reddit anyway was that it was just easier to program, that it kind of comes down to laziness, and it comes down to the fact that it technically works, and the accessibility issues aren't a big enough deal to warrant the time sink it would take to build something a little more complicated like what Epic came up with here, where the developers probably have some kind of an editor on the back end that's pretty simple that they enter their content into, and it just formats it that way where it has the BR tags. And I found documentation telling you not to do it this way. I believe the MDN's page on paragraphs has a section that just tells you not to use BR tags. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, creating separate paragraphs of text using BR is not only bad practice, it is problematic. It is problematic for people who navigate with the aid of screen reading technology, which I saw firsthand. And I'm going to show this in more detail later when we get to the screen reading part of this stream. But this is authoritatively incorrect in terms of what Steam, GOG, Stadia, and Nintendo do. My guess is that it was the easiest way to program this, and Steam did it first. And from there, the others must have just been on such a time crunch to finish the front-end interfaces of these websites that they just looked over to their number one competitor and did whatever they did without considering best practices, with Epic being the only exception that I could find, where they actually came up with their own thing. As for why they would use divs instead of p tags, what one person online mentioned is divs are less restrictive of what you're allowed to have as children. Whereas with p tags, you're not allowed to have like pre inside of it and a few other things, whereas div doesn't have these restrictions. So Epic may have coded it in this way just in case a game description would ever want to have something like that in it. So that's probably why they chose to abandon the p tag in this case. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting rabbit hole to go down of why every major game store, and a lot of other stores too, I noticed that like streaming services like Netflix and Hulu abandoned the p tag as well. And I think those are the reasons why. If you ever see them doing this thing with the BR tags, it's because they're too lazy to build something custom that Epic did. And my guess is they're doing it because Steam does it, and if it works well enough for them, it's going to work well enough for you too. But if you ever see it where there's no other bad practices in place, it's probably to bypass the issues of what you're allowed to have as a descendant for the P tag. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's just go over the front end of the website in general, and let's take a look at how they managed to make the desktop interface shrink down to a tiny phone, and let's see how good they did. So the website starts with a big slider, as all of these sites do. I forgot I... So the slider looks pretty good. They have slightly different artwork that they display for mobile interfaces. All right, so far so good. They managed to keep all of the content. They don't get rid of anything. It's just all in more slides. I do notice that they cut off some of the artwork for this one. I feel like that would ideally be avoided, but it's really not that big of a deal. Yeah, and this slider in particular was the area where I was going to have somewhat of an issue. Because on a screen this small, when you're at the top of the slider, there's no reason to believe that this is a slider at all. It's just a list of games to me, until I reach the bottom and realize there's 4 times as many options as I'm seeing, so I can slide it to the next one and go all the way up. Which is interesting because none of the other sliders responsively have this issue. Like, the first one up here, kind of, it looks like it intelligently creates more slides as there's more content and keeps it so you never have more than a screen full at a time. So I feel like ideally for this tall one, if they want this to be as responsive as it can be, they would do the same thing. Because it's not very intuitive to go all the way down, make the next one show up, and then scroll all the way up. Especially because this is a problem that they literally solved in a very similar element slightly above. This might be as simple as a CSS change, or maybe it is really a completely different element on the back end that just looks the same. It's not too big of a deal. I think that's something that they should fix, ideally, if they want to have the most responsive site that they could. Alright, so now let's click onto a game. Cat Quest 2 looks pretty interesting, nice and probably not M-rated, very YouTube appropriate. And let's find that game here. Okay. GOG does not have auto-playing videos, and I literally love them for this. Because when I was reviewing the Epic Games Store, one of the issues I had is that they had auto-playing videos up front, which is not good because that uses up resources and bandwidth, which for mobile users can be a very big deal. Because if they're on 4G, that's literally using up real, actual money for a video that they probably don't even want to watch. And for many people, they're still using old smartphones like the iPhone 5S. This phone still works. For me, it's just a device I test websites on, but I bought this like a year and a half ago from a friend who was still using it. And I was like, hey, I'll take that off your hands. I could use it for testing websites, but until a year and a half ago, that was her main phone. And that's how she experienced mobile websites. And there's still a lot of people using phones as old as this because that's what they have. And performance is very, very limited on these kind of phones. And if they're not, then some people are buying cheap, like track phone kind of phones where you pay as you go, which literally get as cheap as like $60. There are smartphones you can buy that cost $60, and they perform about as well as you would think they would at that price. And those users matter too. Not everybody's using a Galaxy S21 Plus Pro with like a 7.5-inch screen and as much processing power as a cheap gaming laptop. A lot of users are on cheap smartphones where playing an auto-playing video is going to make their website lag and give them a terrible user experience. Epic Games Store had auto-playing videos, but Steam was even worse because they would do two. Because oftentimes you'd come across a developer who's actively streaming on Twitch, and when they do that, Steam will have the Twitch video playing as well. So store.steampower.com will open not one but two auto-playing videos at the same time in a lot of games. And on phones, the second auto-playing video, the one for the trailer, isn't even going to be visible. So Valve thinks it's a good user experience to play two videos at the same time auto-playing on people's mobile devices, which is using up real money on their 4G, where one of the videos isn't even visible. Like, it's complete insanity how far some of these corporations demand that they go with auto-playing videos. But here I am seeing the first of these websites I've seen so far that does not do this. There is a video. I can watch this video if I want to learn about this game in that way. But it doesn't play automatically. And especially because I review screen readers too, I have to imagine a lot of screen reader users aren't interested in the video. I mean, they might want to watch it anyway, if they can see well enough to make out the video, or if they're interested in the audio. But that's really a decision you should leave up to them. You shouldn't force that on them. And I have to give GOG huge, massive 2 thumbs up props for not having an auto-playing video. Thank you, CD Projekt. This is the good way of building a store page like this. And the mobile version doesn't have any auto-playing anything either. Oops, I accidentally backed out. Let me get back to that game. Alright, so here we are. So it starts with the glorious not auto-playing video, thank you very much. Not only that, but they thought this through so well that instead of having the video and then a slider, on mobile they actually combine the two into one. Where you have the video here, and then you have the images. So that's like super duper responsive design. Talk about saving a lot of space and keeping all the same functionality. This is really good design. These guys are way ahead of the game than Steam and Epic in terms of responsive design. I have to say that much so far. We've got the description, DRM free as always. Their reviews are in a bit of a different place too. On desktop, you scroll all the way down to get to the reviews, whereas here you kind of have a little slider. Again, they clearly thought this through very well. They didn't just toss together a mobile design like a lot of big websites do. I get the impression that this is something they really cared about. And they thought, what is the better user experience for a phone? They treated the phone as a first-class citizen the way you're supposed to. Whereas in a lot of cases on Steam, I got the impression that their job was to make the mobile version good enough to function. So I have to say, so far, my overall impressions are very positive with GOG in their mobile responsive design. So yeah, very quick. All the information you need is right there. But on the desktop where you have a bigger screen, it's all a little bit more present, but as far as I can tell, all of the same information is still there. They didn't cut anything out or remove anything to achieve this mobile design that looks very good even on Apple's smallest screen that they still offer. Alright, so I have to give a 2 thumbs up. The mobile responsiveness on this website is absolutely excellent. And it far exceeds anything that Steam or Epic have done in terms of mobile responsiveness. Alright, so on that, I'm going to switch over to Windows. As soon as I can get my Stream Deck working again. It looks like that went down. Let's go live. Okay, so yes, it's the big slider images. Okay, so there's multiple images going on here for a lot of these games. So for Grim Dawn, there's actually a background image, and it looks like that's what it's complaining about, because this IMG tag does indeed not have alt text, which was an issue that was a big deal across Steam in particular. Although the Epic Game Store had this as well. The alt tag is a required component of the IMG element. You have to have alt text, otherwise it's not a valid image element at all. And what alt text is it describes the image in case it either can't load, and for screen readers, that's the text it'll read out when you get to that image. If it can't read the alt text, it's going to read the image file name, which I'm not confident the screen reader will have anything at all to read in this case. It might actually just say unknown. We'll need to find out when we get to that point, but image alt text is required. With how much attention to detail they put into the mobile responsiveness on this site, it's a little surprising that they would make such a huge mistake to not have alt text at all. In the very least, the alt text should just be what the game is. So it would be like IMG alt Grim Dawn, and that would be good enough because at least users would get the idea of what this image is. It's an image of Grim Dawn, or like Grim Dawn promotional artwork or something, and that would make this valid. And they're clearly pulling in the name from wherever it's stored in their database, so all they need to do is, in addition to pulling it into wherever their H tag is, they pull that exact same text into an alt tag. And that would fix this issue across pretty much the entire website. I'm not sure where that is. Oh, okay. So missing form label. So this was something I saw on Steam as well, where you'll have an input and no accompanying label. So even if you can't see it, you are supposed to have a label in front of the input, and that can also help with accessibility for non-sighted users to see what the input is. So we have 110 empty buttons. Okay, the inspector's kind of being a little weird. Oh, it's because the search is still up. So yeah, we have 110 empty buttons. Oh, I think it's the shopping cart when you hover. Right, so this was an issue that a few of the other sites made as well. In particular, Epic Game Store made this same error with their wishlist buttons, where, for an example, their wishlist button would just be an icon of a heart, and it wouldn't say anything else. In this case, it looks like they have an icon of a cart and nothing else. And Wave is getting mad because you're supposed to have text, like an actual real text value inside the button. Otherwise, screen readers may not be able to correctly read what it is. On the Epic Game Store, instead of saying wishlist button, a screen reader would literally just read button, and it would give no context as to what the button is. And there's a number of ways to fix this. One of the most common ways to fix this is to add a span inside of it with text that you simply hide, which it looks like they're doing here, and at least to some extent, unless that's my plugin that's causing it. But there's a display none here, and you can't hide it in that way because display none hides it from screen readers and basically makes it not exist. But if you ever get this error where it's complaining about an empty button, one way you can fix this, and that I've seen lots of people fix it, is to have a span with the text that you want to be inside of it that screen readers would see. But then you hide it in a way that does not use display none, so that your desktop users won't see it, but your screen reader users will. And that'll make that valid. And then there's low contrast issues. Which I'm not sure how you would reproduce that with normally using the site. So I don't know if that's actually an issue. Okay, so in this case, it doesn't like the yellow that's over this orange. So it's debatable how big of a deal this really is. When dealing with contrast, there's a tool that you can use from webaim.org. And your goal is to reach WCAG AA. Most of the time, that's what you want to achieve ideal accessibility, with AAA being the best. AAA will almost certainly get in the way of your design. AA is generally the goal. And that's going to assure that if people have any kind of color blindness, that they're not going to have any trouble reading all of the information on your website. In this case, it does not like this text over this background. And your goal to reach WCAG AA is to receive a contrast ratio of at least 4.5 to 1. Let's see if I can roughly get what this is, because it has a background image, so it's hard to decide exactly what the background is. Either that or I'll see if it's complaining about something a little bit simpler, which, okay, excellent example. It looks like it's complaining about the text that's crossed out right there. So I can get rid of those, and let's see. What is the foreground color? So this is a hex value of all 9s. And the background color is that. So now we can see how this fares. So here's what this looks like with normal text on a background. And this fails every standard by quite a substantial margin. And this means that there are people that could visit this site that will have trouble seeing this. Now, probably not too much you can do about the background. Let's try. So yeah, to make it minimally acceptable, it would need to look like this. So let's see what color this is. And apply that right here. So yeah, that would make this okay. If they made the change to just do that. In my opinion, the design does not suffer in any way, and that small change would actually make all the difference for people that would have trouble seeing text with that low of a contrast difference to its background. Either that or they could make it a little bit like a tag where it has its own dedicated background. That's a bit of an extreme example, but that's another example of what they could do if they just don't like the look of this. But if you compare this one to this one, I would argue the bottom one that I adjusted looks better anyway. And it would make the site more accessible and make the Wave plugin happy. So I guess those are the main complaints. There are some images, namely these background ones on the sliders that don't have alt text. That is a requirement, that this is definitively a mistake that they forgot to add these in there. They have to do that if they want this to be completely valid. There aren't anywhere near as many as there were on Steam. Steam basically never used alt text anywhere, whereas it does appear that they use alt text on some things. So it's not as bad as Steam on that end, but this is still something that they should fix. and as well as the empty buttons, although we will see for ourselves if this is really going to be an issue soon enough when we get to the screen reader part. And empty links are going to be the same as the buttons. And then they should take a look at various areas with contrast to make sure that everybody is going to be able to clearly read the text, even if they would have trouble with text like this. Hey, Justin. I just saw your chat. So, with that said, I think it's time to move on to the screen reader part of this. The screen reader I've been using is a free one called NVDA, which is the most popular free screen reader. There's 3 major screen readers that most people use. The most popular one is a commercial one called JAWS. That costs a lot of money. It costs like $1,000 to use that one, and I don't believe they have a free version that I could show off in a stream like this. NVDA is the second most popular one because it's free. And the third most popular one is VoiceOver on Mac OS and iOS devices. But for right now, I'm just going to be covering NVDA. So I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to see how well GOG.com works using this.
Weekly sale. GOG. Visited link www.gog.link store.
So the basic idea of a screen reader is right when it turns on, it's basically just going to read out. Hold on, I'm going to close the side panel.
Type 8 gog.com. Visited link about.
Where it's basically just going to read off the entire web page from top to bottom until you actually do something. I'm going to undim my keyboard here. I'm mostly going to be interacting with this by doing up and down and tab. There's many more complex controls, but those are the basic ones if you just want to navigate through a web page.
Link visited link www.gog.com graphic. Visited link link store. Visited link about. Visited link store. About visited link store link. Visit link support. Link store.
All right, we might have an issue here. Let's see what happens if I click enter.
Games on GOG.com.
Okay, so we do have an issue. It looks like the drop-down menus might not be accessible.
Community.
With the screen reader.
Store visited link.
And the fix for this is, in addition to listening for a hover, they could listen for a tab. So like if I tab over it like that,
link.
When it detects that, it could open this up and make all of these links accessible to me.
Join the team.
And then at the end, when I tab out of the last one, it can close it out as if I left the hover state. So most of the work is actually already done because hovering over the menus works. They just would need to add a little bit of logic to listen for keyboard tabs, or focus on that element, and make that do the same thing. And then to listen for when the final element at the end of one of these drop-downs has been focused out of, and then they can close it and move on to the next one.
GOG get join community visited support about visited link.
Either that or on sites where the top level ones are not links, you could just make it so clicking or entering would open it up. But in this case, they are links, so they're going to have to figure out a way to make tabbing the same as hovering.
SCM2 link. Navigation landmark clickable support link. SCM2 link.
What link?
Navigation landmark clickable support link. SCM2 link. Yaga bad luck bundle link. Wingspan link.
Oh, okay, it just goes right to the game.
Navigation
So
landmark clickable support link.
what about the sign-in thing then? Why doesn't it go to that and then the shopping cart and the search bar at the end? I would have expected those to have been next.
Store visited link. Visit link click links visit link support.
So if I do up and down, it'll go to them, but they're not next in terms of what you would tab to.
Clickable 0, clickable.
A little strange, I'm not sure if that really counts as an issue.
6 dot. Highlights. Links come to.
Oh, the voiceover tool I'm using? That's a program you download called NVDA. I can pause this for a bit. So you'll go to... Sorry, that's also NVIDIA's stock name, so look up nvaccess.org. And I'm using this program. This is a real program that you install onto Windows. And you can actually use your entire computer with it entirely. It's very, very thorough. I'm not quite good enough at this program to do that quite yet. But I have learned it well enough just to navigate websites and test things with it. So if anybody watching wants to follow along, this is the program I'm going to be using most of the time. Sometimes I might be using macOS VoiceOver, which is built into macOS and is a viable alternative to this. Some people say it's not quite as good. I don't have enough experience to say either way. I don't plan on covering it this stream, but one of these streams I definitely will, and I might even make comparisons, just to see what the big differences are. Right, so next up I'm going to turn this back on, and let's take a look at this slider. Sometimes it can take a bit for NVDA to load.
Desktop GOG.com Google Chrome. Visited link
there we
about.
Go.
Visited link support. Link clickable. Click 6 dot. Highlights. Links come to. Link Yaga Bad Luck Bundle.
Oh, XCOM, that's what that is. It doesn't know how to pronounce that. So that's not necessarily a mistake. Screen readers will just read things a little bit strangely sometimes. From everything I've heard from people that use screen readers, they're used to it and just acknowledge that that's how it is sometimes.
Link unlabeled graphic. Link wingspan. 59.99 link. Unlabeled graphic minus 50. Unlabeled graphic now on sale Deus Ex.
A lot of unlabeled graphics.
Deluxe edition minus 85. Link minus 85% 6.74. Link Grim Dawn. Link unlabeled graphic. Link Grim Dawn.
Right, so there's some things that are good and some things that are bad about this. Earlier I was going over the Wave plugin, which complained that a lot of the images did not have alt text. And this is the consequence of that. Most of these background images that they have don't have alt text at all, which is a required part of the image element. They did make a mistake by not adding that. And the reason it's so important is screen readers will rely on that to know what the image is. And failing that, the screen reader will look to the image URL, or the image file name, and it'll read that off instead. In this case, because they're using a JavaScript framework to build this, the images don't necessarily have that displayed right on the front end, so the screen reader doesn't even have that. And as a result, it looks like it's just reading unlabeled graphic when you're going through these. To their credit, they do actually have the name coded in text. One of the mistakes that Epic Games Store made, and in some cases Steam on a lot of their sliders, is they wouldn't have the text, so you would entirely rely on the file name, hoping that it's good enough to tell you what the game is, which in the case of Steam it wasn't, because that's not how they name files. At least in this case, you have the real name of the game in here, so even though the image is not good enough for a screen reader to know what it is, there's other information to work with. And one more thing that's good about this slider is that the screen reader doesn't care what item on the slider it is. I'm going to go to the Epic Games Store just to show their homepage one.
epicgames.com/banner main landmark store navigation menu out of menu button search heading level 1 disc carousel current item slide graphic play Scott Pilgrim vs.
Right,
The
so you
World,
see
the game
how...
complete edition on
Hold on,
Epic
I'm going to
Game
make you
out
shut
of
up.
slide current item slide graphic Super Meat available. Super Meat Boy Forever is final.
Right, so you notice how I waited until it was on the second game, Scott Pilgrim. And then when I entered the slider, that's the game it was on. It skipped, I think that's Hitman up there. Yeah, so it skipped Hitman because the slider functionally moved on to Scott Pilgrim. So if I were a screen reader user, I wouldn't have any way to know that that happened. As far as I'm concerned, Scott Pilgrim is the first one. And I don't really have a way to get back to it because if I do Shift Tab, it just
Store
goes out.
navigation. Current item Hitman 3 Epic Games Store exclusive Scott Pilgrim vs. The button.
So yeah, it's kind of confusing where the slider cares so much about what item it's actually on visibly that it'll mess up a screen reader trying to access it. This is something GOG does not do.
Link unlabeled graphic. Link unlabeled graphic.
Where to their credit, one thing that was done very well, on purpose or not, is that it doesn't matter what item the slider is on. When you're using it with a screen reader or going through it with your keyboard, it's always going to show you the first one or read off the first one. So that's very good. And Steam did that as well. So both Steam and GOG have good sliders up front right here. And the Epic Game Store should take note because theirs is barely usable if you're using a keyboard.
Unlabeled Heroes of Might and Deus Ex Mankind. Link clickable. 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 Visited link Heroes of Might and Magic registered 3, complete. Button visited link.
Right, and earlier I was talking about this button as well, the shopping cart that comes up, where the Wave Accessibility plugin was complaining that there was no inner text in the button. And this is why you want that. And the reason they didn't add text is because the button just has an icon, so the icon is supposed to kind of replace the text, which if you're a sighted user, that's not a problem. But if you're relying on a screen reader to tell you what this button is...
The Surge Augmented Edition link button.
All you're going to get is button. So the way that you would fix this, as I was explaining earlier, is you would add a span right under where the icon is and put the text inside of there. So you would say like shopping cart. And then you would add a visibility hidden class onto it that hides it in a way that does not use display none. So it'll still exist, but it won't be visible to sighted users. So you get the desired effect of just having your pretty shopping cart icon without using ugly text in the button. But screen reader users will still know what it is. And this is a super, super common mistake. Epic made this mistake all over the place. Steam was a little bit better, but they made this mistake sometimes too. But it's a super duper easy fix, and it's something that I'm hoping I'll see a little bit less of in websites in the future.
Elderborn minus 40% $14.99 a button link. Link Warcraft I and 2 bundle. Link minus 15% $14.99 12.74.
And I don't have an immediate suggestion, but I feel like that could be made to read a little bit better.
Link Warcraft, link minus 15, link Warcraft.
Not bad though. In contrast to a few other sites like Steam, once you got to their equivalent area where they didn't have hard-coded text to tell you what it is, and it would rely on the images that don't have alt text, a screen reader user literally could not navigate this equivalent area of the site at all. It was completely broken. Whereas for this, it's perfectly navigatable. If a little bit confusing right at the end when it's talking about the discount and the price, but it's navigatable. It's usable. For the UI, I did go over that at the very beginning of the stream. I actually like the UI quite a lot. To me, this looks very simple and usable. It's not complicated to understand what everything is doing, and their mobile responsiveness is absolutely excellent, especially once you get over to the game pages. So I'm not mostly centering on design. I'm not really a designer, but in my opinion, I think they did very good on this site. So that might be most of what there is to talk about, because they mostly just repeat this element a lot, but
visited link
I'm going to go over it anyway, just real quick.
Visited link home for a. Visited link made. Visited link the new GOG Galaxy 2, now on sale. Clickable featured deals. Clickable weekly sale. Clickable bridge. Clickable.
It also occurred to me I should probably figure out some kind of an add-on to make comments actually show up in the stream. Because since I'm streaming on Twitch and I'm going to be putting this on YouTube afterwards, my YouTube viewers are going to have no idea who I'm talking to. So, note to self, find a plugin that does that.
Clickable weekend sale. What's good? Link Gemini. Clickable weekends. What's clickable weekend? Click Gemini
Hold up.
Undead. Clickable button, now on sale.
So wait, so if I'm just pressing down here,
clickable bridge, clickable, what's good?
It just skips clickable over these items?
Link my, clickable feature.
Am I making a mistake?
Clickable R, T, clickable weekend sale, what's good? Clickable, what's good?
Huh.
Clickable weekend sale, clickable weekend sale. Clickable weekly sale. Clickable bridge, clickable
okay,
feature
I may have found another small issue. However it is they're doing these tall items, like weekly sale, trine, weekend sale, for some reason my keyboard does not want to navigate to them, like, at all.
Clickable feature deals.
If I do tab...
Weekly sale up to minus
nope, never mind, I think that was my mistake, because it's working now.
Minutes and 54
never mind.
Left. The new GOG, now on, click, link weekly sale. Link up to, link minus 8, link 16 hours 58 minutes and 41 seconds left.
Okay, I like that. It's actually reading that out as the time. I noticed this on either Steam or Epic, I forgot which one, where it would kind of just read that off as a jumble.
Link 16 hours 58 minutes.
I really appreciate that they made that actually read correctly.
Link button browse deals. Link weekend sale. Link clickable link.
Right, so this is similar to the shopping cart button issue from just before.
Link.
This should say like next link and previous link, which you'd fix in the exact same way. You would just put some kind of a span in there that literally says that, and you would hide it.
Link.
Same for these.
Link.
You shouldn't ever be using a screen reader and just having it say something generic like button and link. If it's doing that, you can probably fix it.
Link. What's good? Link Gemini. What's good? Gemini room minus button link here. Button click recommended for link recommend.
All right, I think I don't have any more issues with this.
Clickable link button graphic. Link minus cyber link unlabeled graphic. Link unlabeled link cyberpunk 2077. Link cyberpunk 2077 game guide furs. Link unlabeled graphic.
And yeah, same with anything else that says unlabeled graphic. If that happens, it's probably bad and you should probably fix it.
Link news. Link weekend sale, hack and link 29. Link weekend sale, Hack and link 29. Link 2 days ago. Link coming soon, Bonky, link 3.
I would probably figure out a way to communicate that these are comments. I don't know if I would be able to figure that out unless I was literally looking at it.
Link 10.
Alright, I think that about does it for the home page. I'm going to go to a game now. What was the game I was testing with just before?
Navigation, T.
Cat Quest 2. That's the one I was on before. I'm going to stick with that for the rest of this stream.
Cat out of marked content quest. Clickable navigation landmark visited. Link clickable sign in. Clickable 0. Clickable. 6 dot. Link. Navigation land link.
Alright, so earlier I was complimenting GOG store page for not having auto-playing videos. I still think that's excellent. I still think Steam and Epic should take notes on this. However, the fact that the play button just says link is a bit of an issue. Because just because a user is vision impaired doesn't mean they're necessarily not going to have a use for the video. They might be able to see well enough to still see the video and enjoy it, or maybe they want to listen to the audio.
Net link.
But with the play button just being called link, that isn't accessible. They're not going to know what that's going to do.
Heading level link. Heading level 1 Cat Quest 2. 4.5/5. English and 9 more. Minus 33% $14.99 10.04. Button add to button wish list it. Clickable. 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 Clickable.
Yep, it's the same issue as before. It just says a generic clickable. That's probably bad. There's probably a pretty simple way to fix it.
Clickable. 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 Safety and DRM 600 DRM free. No activation. Link safety and satisfaction. Stellar support.
Actually, real quick, I do want to see
and full
how they're doing these images.
Document. Select an -30 elements panel proper greater.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. No alt tag. Wait, no, they have
alt.
So they have the alt there, but they don't put any text into it.
Product card selected -elements element selected -elements panel.
So they built it so you can. It's just that they don't. Is that just the game? I'm gonna take a look at another game to see if that's everything.
A. Clickable marked content Terraria out of marked selected.
Huh. So that's interesting. They built this so there can be alt text, but they don't add it. Yeah, that's an issue. The very least that they could do is just put something generic that's like screenshot from Terraria in each one, which still wouldn't be ideal, but it would be better than not having anything there at all. So
tree view.
So I'm not sure what the back end looks like for adding game data onto this if you're a developer. Maybe GOG just doesn't let them add alt text to their images. I don't know, that's kind of weird. The way that they would build it to have alt in the image tag, but never have text in there. That's interesting.
Clickable -33%.
Definitely something I would look into at some point if I were working on this website.
But click link description. Cat Quest 2 is a 2D under thread from a continuing war. Cat Quest description. Lupus journey of play as both cat description. Cat Quest 2 is a 2D open-world action RPG set in a fantasy realm of cats and dogs. Under thread from a continuing war between the cats of Felingard and Lupus Empire, Cat Journey of Possum. Play as both a cat and dog as you filled with magic, blank. Follow, blank.
Right, and For anyone that might have been watching the very beginning of the stream, this is what I was talking about with how they're doing text on most of these websites and why it's bad.
Cat Quest 2 is a select -30 cat content expanded.
So almost every website does this. I noticed this first on Steam, but then I saw that Google Stadia does this, Nintendo does this, and GOG does this, where they have a master div. And instead of paragraph tags for each paragraph, they literally just stuff all of the text right there and put a bunch of BR tags. The reason that that's bad is because of what I'm doing right now with the screen readers. Screen readers will read off a BR tag as blank most of the time. I know NVDA and VoiceOver on Mac both do. I'm not certain about JAWS. But among other reasons, that is why that is considered a bad practice. And as far as I can tell, I think most of these websites literally do it just because Steam did it and they might not think about it too much more than that. Either that or from where the text is entered from the back end, from their text editor that the developers might have access to copy and paste their game data in, this might just be the simplest way to code it to output. But Epic Game Store figured something better out, where they will wrap every paragraph into its own div. And that's at least a better approach because it fixes the screen reader issue. So if I were a developer on this site, I wouldn't be copying Steam, I would be copying Epic on this one. Whatever it is Epic figured out of how to solve this issue is the best approach I've seen any of these sites take. So on the off chance that any GOG developers are watching this, don't take cues from Steam, take cues from Epic on this one. They're the ones that did it right.
Cat Quest, new tab.
And I'm just going to quickly show code from a game real quick.
Heading level 3 www.epic Calico main landmark list with one show less.
Right, so the way that they do it
Calico the play
is you'll see that
collapse. Select the Calico elements panel data component grade less.
So they have a div wrapped around each thing. It is a little strange that they chose not to use p tags, but this is still better than just having all of your text in one div container and then using BR tags. So in the very, very least, this is the one that you should copy if you're building a website like this, not Steam. Just because Steam is the biggest doesn't mean they did it the best.
Following new path blank universe of blank.
Because yeah, like, what's that? Like, come on. There's no reason to have that. That's just, I mean, like, it isn't broken. You're not, like, locking screen reader users out of any functionality, but I mean, if I were a screen reader user going through these sites, and that's the experience I got, I would kind of feel like I wasn't being appreciated.
Unit blank. Go on the old Cat Quest is a copyright of the Gentle Popular Achievements. Clickable unlabeled graphic clickable 423077D483F90CE8B9CB92D703F3F.
Alright, you can stop talking now. So this is what happens.
New weapons type. Select an element in
for most images if you don't have alt text.
ng track event.
So you see the image file name, that's what it was reading off there. Because they didn't add alt text, so ideally they would.
Blank. -33.
And if they don't come up with unique alt text, the very least they could do is just have something generic like achievement graphic. That's much better than that horrendous
unlabeled graphic clickable 119-335D6E888617B21885374744B0D.
Right, like, who wants to listen to that? Come on, don't assault your screen reader users with that. Just tell them that it's an achievement graphic if you have no way to individually add alt text to these. Ideally, they would add a way to add individual alt text for each one, or some kind of description.
System requirements. Link.
They should definitely specify that that's Windows. I have a feeling that for games that are cross-platform, it's just going to say link for both of them instead of Windows and Mac or Windows and Linux.
minimum system requirements.
All right, here's where we're going to get interesting. Let's see if this is really a table or not.
Not in a table cell system. Not in a table.
Okay, so this is not a table. So I'll turn my keyboard on again. Wait, is
Cat Quest 2.
my overlay isn't working, man. All right, I'm just going to turn that off. Oh well. So in NVDA, to easily navigate a table, you hold down Control and Alt.
Intel R new tab G E.
I'm just going to look up a quick HTML table just to demonstrate.
Browser tag also supports.
Actually, this should do.
Link.
Hold
C.
Less DF. Maybe I'll open this. I just need something really basic to demonstrate this.
Edit. Border. Month column. Row 1 month column 1.
So right, if you hold down Control and Alt, you can navigate the table left, down, up, and right, like this. So instead of just going left to right, top to bottom, you can freely navigate.
Row 3 February.
And it'll even give you details
row 2 January.
On where you are in the table.
Savings column 2 100. Row 1 savings. HTML table.
One of the downsides of this not being a table
Windows 7
is you won't have the freedom to do that.
Windows 10 recommend minimum system requirements.
So if I wanted to just look at the minimum, if I don't care about the recommended,
Windows 10 Windows
I don't really
7.
have a good way of doing that. I have to just kind of understand that Windows 7 is minimum, Windows 10 is recommended.
Intel memory. Not in a table, not in a table cell.
And I feel like if I were reliant on screen readers and I'm used to navigating tables that way, I would be frustrated that this isn't a table. And Epic Games Store almost got this right, except they built their table wrong by not having a table header.
Minimum system, new tab group.
I'm just going to go back to that real quickly.
Where you are given an important task, rebuild.
So right, Epic Games Store almost got this right.
Select Calico document, level 19.
Except the two table headers are both TD elements. So when you get here, it's actually not any better. But if they made minimum and recommended a TH element, you would be able to navigate them as freely as in that example table from before. And I think the reason that they opted not to make this a table is probably for responsive design reasons. I can check that real quick. That's probably what they were going for.
This is a fun adventure. -33% dollar. -33% cat.
Yeah, they did that so it's going to be easier to make them stack. Which from a UI perspective is totally valid. So it's not necessarily bad that they didn't use a table, but it should be known that when you opt to build something that very clearly is a table in a way that isn't an HTML table, you will be affecting screen reader accessibility to some extent, because screen reader users will expect it to be a table, and they might be frustrated when they can't navigate the table the way that they're used to. All right, let's just get back to where we were.
6 why buy on GOG.com, DRM free. No link safety and satisfaction. Stellar support 24 game details. Genre. Link role playing, link adventure, link fan. Works on Windows 7, 8, 10. Release date September 24th. Company Link the Gentle Brothers. Size 100. Link forum discuss. Separator. Game features. Link achievements. Link cloud saves. Link separate languages. English.
All right, is this a table? Let's see.
Not in a table cell.
No, it is not. So it has the exact same issue.
Audio. Text. Deutsch. Audio. Text. Visited. Clickable by all series for $11.98. Clickable visited link cat quest. Visited link. Clickable link button.
Alright, so it looks like the last major thing is the reviews area.
Clickable. Clickable.
So right off the bat, all of the stars just say clickable. They should say clickable 1 star, clickable 2 stars, clickable 3 stars.
Clickable. Button plus add your review. 4.5/5. Overall rating. 4. Verify 5 filters. Clickable show. Clickable order. Overall most helpful review. Mickle Schmeckle. Games. 123 review. Fun coop game to play with a buddy. December 29th, 2019. Verify. This is a fun adventure game.
Right, I'm going to look up a game with more meaty reviews.
Navigation. A. 2. Clickable marked content. Terraria out of Terraria. Link but user verify 4.0 4. Button plus add your clickable but 4 overall rating 4 points verified owners rating 4 filters based rating clickable show clickable order overall most Asgardian games 2, surprisingly complex October 2nd. When I first bought into Terraria, I was expecting 2D Minecraft. On the surface, essentially what it is, however, experience blank. Firstly, it looks blank. Experience blank. World blank. The combat is an area which could have been
right. So there's issues with this too. There's
initially,
one keyboard shortcut I need to look up. I don't quite remember. Hold on, I'm gonna do that. I just need to remember what NVDA's keyboard shortcut was for next paragraph. There it is. All right, so
when I first bought into Terraria, I was
because I did take a look at the code for the review paragraphs, and it's interesting.
Select Terraria on
so they do use a p tag, but only one p tag. And then they have all of the text pasted inside,
into Terraria,
and they use a CSS property called whitespace treeline to make it render properly.
Tree view clickable element
which that was a new CSS property to me. I've never actually seen that before. And out of curiosity, I am going to look that up in Can I Use.
M-O-O-E select document tree new address and Google.com link Can I Use.
Oh, okay, so it's totally supported by everything.
Firstly, elements pan when I first bought into
but I am interested because this is just one tag. Is the next and previous paragraph shortcut going to work?
When I first essentially what it is. When I first bought into Terraria.
So and to do that you do control up and down.
Blank. Firstly, it looked blank. The combat is an area which could have been half-arsed, but wasn't.
Sorry, YouTube, there's a swear word. That's not me saying that. That's the screen reader. Please don't ban me. Anyway, the issue is still the same as above, though, where it literally reads off blank when you have text in that way with that CSS property, so it's still not totally ideal. Although I have to say it is interesting in the way that I've never seen a website do that, even though it's something every browser supports. But it should be noted it has the same issue as above, where, like the BR tags, it's going to say blank, so at the end of the day, it might not be any better than just using BR tags. So I don't know if I would advise anyone watching to build paragraph text in this way. The best way is still just to have p tags surrounding every paragraph and to use CSS to space them apart.
Nothing to write. Is office cheap. Worth more than the price.
Alright, is there anything else? I don't want to risk any more swear words in these reviews.
26 reviews.
I guess I could take a look at the footer real quick.
Clickable. Link reclaim your game. Link GOG link submit out of list link GOG.com. Link GOG.com. Link GOG.com.
Okay, so those I'm curious what they're doing here.
Elements panel. Select an Terraria elements panel proper. Level 8 less I. Level 7 less a target equal class. Level 8 less I class equals footer equal. Level expanded I expanded.
Because they don't just say blank link. I think it's reading off the end of the href, maybe? Either way, it's not that much better than if it said blank link. This would be fixed the same way as the buttons from earlier, where you would add text and hide it. I can turn off the screen reader now because I'm about done. I showed this in my last stream, but just for reference, I'm going to show it again. I do something a little bit like this on my own website, and I'm just going to briefly show how I do it on my social icons, where I actually do have text that says GitHub, and I have a class called visibility hidden that hides it in a way that does not use display none. So I technically do have text in the markup as far as the HTML is concerned, as far as the browser is concerned, and screen readers. But it's hidden when I want it to be hidden just for the cleanliness of the design, but a screen reader will still see that, and it'll know that that's my email, that's my LinkedIn, that's my GitHub. And that's what they should do for these two. A screen reader user should know that this is their Facebook, this is their Twitter, this is their Twitch. And that's one way that you can adjust these kind of elements to do that while still being clean and not having any ugly text. And also, as before, I do worry about the contrast right here. But the stream has gone on long enough, so I'll complain more about contrast next week. So I guess to recap everything that I've gone over today, I'm going to briefly switch back to my MacBook. So first I covered on my MacBook this website versus the mobile version, which I was using on my real iPhone 5S, just to test a really old phone that some people may still be using. And I praised GOG for how good their responsive design is. Namely, I liked, there's no auto-playing video. That's a very, very big deal for mobile users. Auto-playing videos are always bad no matter what. But not only that, on desktop where there's a video and then a separate slider, instead of just keeping it that way, they thought it through well enough to include the video in the slider as the first slider element on mobile. And then the gallery is below it. So they kind of compress two elements into one while still maintaining all of the same information. And that is absolutely fantastic. So their responsive design is absolutely top tier. Far better than the responsive design on Steam and GOG. And in general, I thought the UI is just nice and clean looking. From there, I went through the website in terms of accessibility with the Wave plugin. It complained that a lot of the images don't have alt text, which, as we saw through using a screen reader, does affect the user experience for screen reader users. It does have accessibility concerns. Nonetheless, using a screen reader, I didn't see too much that was breaking. I think you can fully utilize this site with a screen reader, which I cannot say for Steam. So it definitely gets a lot more points than Steam does on that end. Oh yes, and there were some contrast issues. I particularly pointed out the crossed out numbers here that do not come even close to meeting the WCAG AA standards that you're supposed to meet. And I went to this website, let me remember. This website, where you can grab the foreground color and the background color, toss them in here, and it'll tell you if it's good enough. And it was not. It failed every single standard that you're supposed to meet for something like that. And making the text darker doesn't even change the design that much. I don't know, it's going to take too much longer to do that just in this recap. So my advice for them in terms of accessibility was to make sure every single image has an alt tag. Without fail, that is a requirement. Images that don't have alt tags are invalid and literally do not validate. For all intents and purposes, they're broken. For people that might have trouble with contrast, you need to make sure that you're at least reaching WCAG AA standards ideally, or at least getting close to it. And like most of these other sites, the paragraph text is very strange. They shouldn't use BR tags to separate paragraph text. As I showed earlier, there's an article from the MDN. For those watching on YouTube, I'll have that in the description, where you're very authoritatively not supposed to separate paragraphs with BR tags. That is bad. Just please figure out another way. The Epic Game Store figured out how to do something like this and not use BR tags. So if you're going to copy someone, copy them on that end. I noted that these are not an actual table, whereas ideally they should be. There are concerns with responsive design, like having the two tables drop one on top of the other is going to be very difficult. But what you would gain is that screen readers would be able to use Control and Alt and navigate the table freely, which is going to make a world of difference to them in terms of usability. And that about wraps up everything on this site. All in all, this is probably the best one so far in terms of how well this site is made. It's certainly worlds better than Steam. Steam was a little bit of a mess. And I'm going to say it's better than Epic Game Store because the main slider is so much more accessible. So of the 3 game stores so far, GOG's is the best. They should be proud. This is actually a really good website. And next up, I will be talking about Nintendo. I am going to be going through the Nintendo eShop on the web, and we'll see how that stacks up. I already know that they do the weird thing with having all of the text just be separated with BR tags, so hopefully we're not going to see all of the other same issues as well. But we'll find out next week, so thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you have an excellent day.